Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lives with Rebecca and Coco. My name is Coco Madari, and this is Rebecca Quave. And we have been doing weekly lives for the past, like 2 months?
Something like that. I think this is number 10 now, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So crazy. So we've been talking about topics that are in alignment with shining as the star you are, really allowing the impact that you're meant to have on the world be, and let that happen from the inside out. So in these calls, in these lives, we have been going through guided processes that Rebecca has been taking us through, these like internal transformation, reclaiming, coming back home, and bursting with love, and all of the things. So if you haven't caught any of them, then they're on Rebecca's website. The link is there, and they're also on the Doepicshit podcast. So both of our links are in the show notes. And this week, we are talking about having nothing to prove, which I think is a really big topic, especially for people who are high achieving and are ambitious and want to do big things in the world. It can be kind of difficult to draw the line between, when am I trying to achieve something from a place of expression versus when I'm trying to prove myself, right? So we're going to be talking about that today. Any initial thoughts, Rebecca, on that?
Yeah. So it's something that I've dealt with people for a long time, which is this distinction of exactly what you said, of the difference between what you're able to bring when you're in pursuit of something versus what you bring when you're in expression of that thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so from the outside, it might seem like it's almost the same, right? Like you might seem to end up doing some of the same things, but the way that you'll do them is completely different. And the energy and state of being that you're in is completely different when you're in full expression of something, when something is just coming through you, versus when you feel like you have to pursue it, achieve it, and prove yourself in some way.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very similar actually to abundance, like being in pursuit of abundance, being in pursuit of money from this place of not having enough versus, making offers, for example, from a place of overflowing with your own abundance. And one rule that I have for myself is to never make offers until it's coming from a place of just like genuine generosity. And that's not always. I'm not always in that place. So
Exactly. Well, and I just was dealing with that, and it's true. This pursuit of versus expression of, it applies to absolutely everything, right?
mm-hmm.
But
love,
even with
relationships,
exactly, absolutely everything. And so even just earlier this week, something that I asked a client was, what would you, someone who, has their own business and is in a helping type of field and works with people. And I asked, what would you put together? What's the program that you would do with $10 million already in the bank, $50 million already in the bank? Do you know what I mean? Because that's what let them really get this answer very clearly of what was actually ready to get put together and be offered versus what do I think should happen or needs to happen, based on other factors.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. It's that getting into that space helps you shift from short-term thinking, like what do I need to do now, which can be, you know, if that's the place you're at and that's the place you're at, but it can take away from the long-term thinking that is actually going to birth something new, have an offer that feels really, really aligned to you versus something that you think is going to pay the bills immediately. Yeah, so that is a huge distinction, and I think it's one that you'll feel in your body if you are feeling yourself in this place of knowing that if you give, then you don't feel like you need to have something back. This is just an expression of who you are, versus being like, oh, well, if I do this, I better get this back. And I, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So
Exactly.
yeah.
And the example I used was, you know, Walt Disney had a brother named Roy, who was sort of his, like, Roy kind of took care of a lot of the details and talking to bankers and all that kind of stuff, right? So that Walt was free to have the ideas that he had and like fully form those ideas without like what wasn't in the middle of the idea was like, oh, I think this would make X amount of money, right? It was that he was originally would take his daughters to the park every weekend and they would be on the merry-go-round, and he's sitting there thinking, you know, wouldn't it be cool to have something the parents and the kids could get on together, you know? And it was just these things that that came to him. And so it allowed him, you know, this little teaming up with him and his brother allowed him to just have all the outrageous ideas, or what seemingly outrageous ideas. Like when he told his wife he was going to make an amusement park, she was like, no, they're so dirty, you don't want to do that, you know? And he was like, no, that's the point, mine won't be like that. Or like with you know, Disney revolutionized animated film when Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was released. Everyone said before that, no one will watch a full-length animated film, right? And instead, he just went to town inventing a whole new type of camera to even film animation with. You know what I mean? He put his house on the line to produce this. And meanwhile, none of it had to do with, do I think this is what is going to make money? It was, I have these ideas, you know? And then obviously the result, it also resulted in a lot of money, right? But that wasn't like the original thought.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And that's actually, it goes into the point that I wanted to make, where deciding to not take action from a place of wanting to prove yourself might actually cost you. And an example that comes to mind is when in February, I got accepted to DJ at this cyberpunk festival in LA. And it was very exciting because I applied well past the deadline. I even messaged them and I was like, hey, are you guys still accepting applications? When I first saw it, and they were like, no, but then I applied anyways. And then I got it. And it was really, really exciting to know that I could get something like that and all of that stuff. But when I was actually in the space of preparing for it, I felt so stressed. I felt so overwhelmed. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy preparing for it. And also, like, going from Nanaimo to LA with my gear, I would have to learn how to play on CDJs, which is like the bigger version of what I have. I play on I don't know what they're called off the top of my head, but like smaller versions. And I would have to learn all of that in a month when I didn't have a job. Money was like, I was broke at that time and I needed to figure out how to get there. It was just so much. And I realized that part of the reason why I wanted to do this was because I felt that me having this gig would make me feel successful, make me feel like I'm doing cool shit. I'm, advancing in my career. I am meeting awesome people and whatever. But it was coming from that place of, if I don't do this, then I am a loser and nothing's happening in my career and I'm not a real musician and blah, blah, blah. And when I found out that was a big reason why I said yes to this, and listening to my body in that I wasn't enjoying the process of getting ready for it, I decided not to do it. And that was really hard. It was a really hard decision to make, especially when, probably a lot of people would be like, what are you doing? Like, that is an amazing opportunity. You might not get an opportunity like that again, blah, 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 blah. Right. But when I decided not to do it, suddenly I was like, oh, I want to create my own music. Like, I want to sing. I want to be in a band. I want whatever. I don't really want to be known as a DJ because I want to be out in front of the decks. I want to perform. I want to engage the crowd. And at that point, before I made that decision, I thought I could do it all. I thought that I could DJ and then sing and then engage the crowd and blah, blah, blah. It was like putting all of this pressure on myself, but I can do it because I'm a superhero and I can just figure it out. But it was like, no, which is also part trying to prove myself and being this, I am all of everything. And, the memory of trying to get love by being perfect and doing all of the things. So yeah, that is the story of seeing where I was trying to prove myself and what it ended up costing, but also what it ended up opening up as a result. And it's not to say I'm never going to DJ again, but it's just the focus is totally, totally different. And I knew I wanted to go to art school, and it felt like art school was it was a less glamorous thing. It would be me hauled up in my apartment, painting for hours, very unglamorous, very not getting an immediate what's the word?
Instant gratification.
Instant gratification. Yeah, exactly. But it felt more steady. And it felt more like a gift to me versus something that I needed to do in order to prove something. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And exactly. I love what you said about what it opens up for you, right? And makes available for you, because fundamentally, what it means to be in that place of having nothing to prove. And this is something we went really into depth in recently in Soul Oasis, is that having nothing to prove is really just a result of being deeply aware of and connected to and embodying the infinite unconditional love that you are, and also recognizing, being connected to and embodying the changelessness of your own worth, right? So when you're aware that whatever you choose to do or not do, that's not going to change who you are and how lovable and how worthy you are, that's the place that you can move freely from and make really clear decisions from, versus, like you said, right, it all comes down to love, where when we're proving ourselves, what do we even think is the reason to have to prove ourselves, right? It's all based on this idea that if you prove yourself, you're going to be more worthy, you're going to be more lovable.
Yeah. And that's how I felt, is that, oh, this opportunity, elevate my self-concept and I'll feel better about myself and, blah, blah, blah. But really what it is searching for love.
Yeah. And so the difference is what you said at the very beginning that we're really focusing on in all of these lives is how that change happens from the inside out, right? And not the other way around. And I'm sometimes surprised when I see so much emphasis on, even in arenas that I don't know that maybe naively on my part that I expect that I'm going to see something different from, where there might be an emphasis on inner work, but then meanwhile, there's also just as much of an emphasis on, hey, look at my new handbag that's made me feel better about myself. And I just went for a Botox appointment and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I thought we're going past that now. Like, what is going on? So it really is about watching for that in every way. And again, it's not to say like you can't have a new handbag that you like that's not the point. It's what I mentioned before. Is it expression of, or is it pursuit? And that applies with absolutely anything.
Yeah. And I think the key is to be aware of it, because we all have the tendency to want, like it sneaks up on us, wanting to prove
the idea
that
something will validate you or will change your identity or change your level of worthiness and lovability. Sure.
Yep. Trying to prove that you're a good ally, trying to prove that you're a good person, trying to prove that you're a talented artist, trying to prove that you're a successful whatever, try to prove to your family that you deciding to have a business is the right idea. All of it, right? And it is, and it is not to berate yourself for falling into that at all, because we're like, most of us have not had the kind of childhoods that would allow for us to be completely, in touch with our own love and, knowing that we are inherently worthy. Like, no.
Yeah, none of us have been raised by like some fully enlightened beings that,
exactly.
just showed up and were like, here.
Exactly. Yeah. But I was so proud of myself for having that awareness of like what, like wanting to go forward with that from that place of wanting to prove myself, because a lot of people would just do it and just like force themselves to do things that they don't want to do, and then make themselves wrong for like not enjoying it and like all of that stuff. Or
subconsciously end up causing such a point of tension and pressure that you end up getting sick or something, right?
I feel like that was about to happen. I definitely felt like it was about to happen. And I felt like I had this image of me performing and being so angry and so upset and like not wanting to be there. And I probably would have flopped the whole thing. Because it was just too much on my nervous system at that point. And I fucking could not have done it. Like going into the desert and like, whatever, my bank account's all fucked up. Like it just would have been a total disaster. So, yeah, that's a good point too, is that when we do force ourselves to do these things from that place of pressure, wanting to prove yourself, then it ends up the universe will kind of show you that like, hey, maybe you kind of overdid it, or maybe this wasn't.
Yeah, we tend to find ways to put the brakes on one way or another, whether it's consciously intentional or not at some point. Yeah,
exactly. Sure. Through illness, through sabotage, through all of that stuff. Yeah.
And even the idea of sabotage, right? Because from my perspective, I don't see that as something we really do, right? We can do things that look like that, and I can see why people would characterize it as that, but I don't think that you ever actually work against yourself.
Right.
So what I do see happen though is that we'll do things that, depending on what perspective you're looking at it from, look like we ruined something for ourselves. But meanwhile, if you dig a little deeper, there was kind of a bigger picture going on, right? And something that you were looking to steer yourself toward or away from that you didn't initially listen to all the signals about, or you just weren't aware of that full picture. So I've found that it helps people really soften in themselves to look back and recognize, oh, you know what? Of course I don't sabotage myself. Of course I don't actually work against myself, because the tension that builds up when you sort of create this separation where there's you, and one of you is like your own enemy,
Yeah.
creates a lot of difficulty as you continue down that path, versus seeing yourself completely whole, where there's no part of you that's working against you. There's no enemy, whether that is you, whether that is, I work with a lot of people who their background is a lot of spiritual seeking. So a lot of times they come in with the idea that their mind is their enemy and is trying to like screw everything up for them, and that their ego is their enemy that's trying to screw everything up for them, right? And so and none of that is really the case, because you're not working against yourself. And it's so healing to bring that wholeness back in and allow yourself to not have these internal or external enemies going on at all.
Yeah, that's a good point. I love that. And I just recently went through that in many ways, where I realized that I thought that my not enoughness, or my feelings of not enoughness, was holding me back. And and in doing that, I was rejecting that part of myself that felt not enough. And so that part of myself felt even more not enough.
Exactly.
So, it was a really, really powerful shift. And I think it happened while I was listening to one of your like replay calls or something like that. Where it was like, no, that part of me just gets to be there and I get to love it. And that felt like hard for me to like really allow myself to love that part of myself. So I'm like, no, but if you believe that you're not enough, then it's gonna manifest and blah,
I
blah,
bet
blah.
I know what you're talking about, because you know what? A client just said something similar recently this week. And so I think it's from the Who Do You Think You Are that I give to one-on-one clients. I bet it was from in there. Look at that, sweetheart.
I know. He believes that he is enough.
Exactly.
Yeah. And another thing was I noticed myself, quote unquote, procrastinating on my art homework. And then I kind of questioned that, and I was like, well, what if like procrastination isn't a thing? And then, oh my God, there's so much.
You've been blessed.
Yes, all down my throat. And I like questioned that, and then realized that I really just needed to give myself permission to finish the 1-year program in 2 years if I needed to, and not force myself to work on it if I don't want to. And that was also a hard thing to like allow that, 'cause I'm like, but my career and like blah blah blah, and they in the course are very much like, you want to finish this in a year and you want to like do art all the time and blah blah blah, but they're doing art full time all the time. They don't have like a job and a coaching business and want to pursue music and whatever,
Exactly.
So I really needed to give myself permission for that. And then once I did, then so many things opened up. I started writing more songs. I did some poetry last night at open mic and want to do more of that. And there's more space for me to like get out there and meet people and all that stuff, which is going to move my career forward, but just in different ways. And so that is what is aligned with me. But if I had thought, oh, I'm procrastinating, better hire a coach to help me not procrastinate because I'm, sabotaging my goals.
And that keeps it surface level, right? Rather than stopping and backing up and being like, okay, we can call this procrastination, or I can get really curious. And this is why I emphasize curiosity all the time. If you're somebody who's listening, who's known me a while, I know you've heard me say this, when you get curious and go, okay, so I'm not doing this, what's actually going on? And you start, exploring and finding out how you're feeling about it and everything else, that's how you end up, and you're willing to be in a place of love about all of it. That's how you end up, like what you just described, that's you being loving with yourself, right? Is being able to fit what all these different components are in your life into what works for you and what works for what you're actually bringing into the world, rather than the opposite of you trying to fit yourself into how it is in an arbitrary way, right? And I remember, years ago, and this is going to sound like such a simple thing, but for me, it was a big deal because I'd spent prior to that so many years hating my body and having that reinforced that was correct for me to hate my body, right? But the day that I was standing in my closet and realized, wait a minute, I think the clothes are supposed to fit me, not I'm supposed to fit the clothes, right? And that sounds like so incredibly simple, but to this day, millions and millions of women are walking around in the world believing that they're supposed to fit the clothes instead of the clothes. And, we're seeing a shift in this, thank God, right? There's, lots of people out there, bringing this message that is not the case. But it's true in so many areas. It's about not trying to force yourself to fit something arbitrary.
Yeah, exactly. And especially when, these people doing the art school, like they mean well, they believe in people's dreams and they want to motivate and whatever. So when they express like, stick to it, keep going, blah, 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 you can finish this in a year, whatever. They say it with such authority and with such certainty and confidence and blah, 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 that if you have been gaslit a lot in your life, if you have self-doubt, if you whatever, it can be easy to swap out your own internal knowing
and take that on and it's a great example of how nothing is one size fits all, right? Because that might be what some people need to hear, right?
Exactly.
But someone like you, someone like me, someone like probably most of the people that are drawn
like neurodivergent people
conversation don't necessarily, like, some people need to be told do more and some people need to be told do less, right? It completely depends upon where they're at in the moment and what's going on. If you're somebody that's been pushing yourself all the time, what you need to hear is just nothing is mandatory. Nothing is mandatory. Exactly. But if you're somebody who's just been like loafing around doing nothing, you don't need to hear nothing is mandatory,
Yeah. But a lot of people, like, they think that they're loafing around when really they're not.
Exactly. That's another clarification to exactly. It's true. Some people just are in a space where they need rest.
Yeah.
And they've been taught mistakenly that's loafing or laziness or something. So this is why it's so important, and what I've always emphasized, that one of the most important things you can do is develop your connection to yourself, right? So you cultivate your ability to discern what is right for you in any given moment, so that you develop your connection with your own inner wisdom, and you learn to read what those signals are like, and how that comes through to you, and then being willing to, because a lot of people are receiving that information fine, but then they're not feeling solid about it and not feeling comfortable to let that be what actually determines their decisions, right? So it's that
Exactly.
two-part thing. It's being in touch with your guidance and being willing to follow that out, rather than just sort of having that in one ear and then still just following what somebody else says to you
Totally.
instead.
Totally. One thing that I came to was like, I don't know if you play video games at all. You don't seem like a person who plays video games. But in a lot of like, first player games or whatever, there, right when you start, there's you pick like easy mode, normal mode, hard mode, or then like, are you insane mode? So I realized I've been playing life on like, do you have a death wish mode, like my whole life. And that's and in knowing that about myself, I was like, I am not going to put a single ounce of pressure on myself for the rest of my life. That is like, and this art school I bought, it's for me doing music, it's for me. All of it is just a gift to myself, because there's no other option at this point. But there definitely, over the past couple of years, I knew that I had a really hard life. I knew that I went through all those things, but I was still putting tons of pressure on myself. I was still in that space of like keeping on playing on hard mode, just because that's just what you're used to.
Yeah. Well, and
yeah.
for a lot of people, even if they start to recognize that that's what they've been doing, it's encouraged, right? People are taught that there's some sort of valor in
Yes.
struggling, in doing it the hard way, that like, you get a bigger gold sticker if it's been difficult for you. And it's like, whoa, where are we getting these ideas?
Yeah, I remember when I dated someone for a month. It was a very intense relationship, and she's still stalking me, but part of the reason why I moved. Anyways, we were like, it was kind of a weird, like spiritual kind of, she was the teacher kind of relationship. And one of the things we were doing, she thought that I was a god and needed to be awakened. And it was, there was a lot. And so part of that process was basically torture. Like,
okay, I'm suddenly, I don't know if you've seen I don't remember which Pirates of the Caribbean movie it is, where they have to go get, because Johnny Depp is like being roasted on a spit because they said he was a god. And I'm like, I don't know where we're going with this.
Yeah, it was that. It was that. But I remember one of our sessions where she would like have her elbow on my like shin and like getting the demons out, which is essentially like just causing me a lot of pain, and doing like a massage to like clear me of whatever. And yeah, we weren't together for long. But I remember being in the shower afterwards and just feeling empty and bad, and then having this like revelation of like, healing doesn't have to be this painful. I don't have to go through the depths of hell in order to reap the rewards of love and happiness and all of the things.
Yeah. And listen, there can be things that are initially uncomfortable to us that make their way to the surface because they've been suppressed when we start giving ourselves that space and that love and that softness. But that's very different than someone else that's not you and doesn't have any way to know what is actually best for you, walking in and being like, oh, let's beat the demons out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. But then that was the shift, that was the glue that was keeping us together, is me thinking that in order for me to heal, I needed to go through a lot of pain.
Yeah. And
'Cause
that's
yeah.
understandable, right?
Mhm.
Because especially if you're somebody that's been through a lot of pain to begin with, right? It's it's just going to be kind of wired in that I mean, it's actually going to make sense
Yeah.
that anything is going to involve pain, right? So
Mhm.
if something that didn't even result in in like what felt like change or healing or moving forward involved pain, then it's understandable that the assumption that would be that something valuable and healing and that does move you forward would certainly involve
Yeah.
might even involve more pain, you know?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's a similar thing that is indoctrinated in certain pockets of the coaching industry, is like, if you want abundance, you have to like go into debt. You have to like go to the depths in order to, blah blah blah. But that is not the case. That is not always the case. I believe in investing in yourself. I believe in investing in your business. And I believe that there is, a lot of stuff around debt that can be unraveled. And, it is not always necessary to,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, there doesn't need to be like a stigma on it. That's for sure, because
For
people
sure. Or
use that
shame,
for
or yeah,
leverage all the time. And so
yeah,
the idea of um people who traditionally haven't been taught how that can be used for leverage, right?
yeah.
Um to be able to do that and not feel shame about it, that's fantastic. But that's different than it almost becoming a contest
Requirement.
of,
Yeah.
hey, everybody and again, it's another one of these cases of where there's just not a one size fits all. There's basically never a one size fits all, outside of, I don't know, we all need to breathe, I suppose. But,
Hmm. Totally.
other than
Totally.
that, it becomes really difficult when people are out sort of prescribing things that is not necessarily what's the best for everyone, which is again why your own clarity and discernment and ability to be aware of and follow your own guidance is always central, is always key.
Yeah, totally. I feel like I could do a whole stand-up skit about that relationship, even though it was
It
short.
sounds like
It,
there's
it,
plenty of
it was
material
fucking
there.
hilarious. And she's still like posting on Instagram, like, you'll come to your senses and realize that, we're twin flames and we're gonna awaken together and whatever. We've been broken up for almost 2 years now. But yeah, it's yeah, this anyways.
Yeah, I'm realizing now that like on the live or the replay, nobody's getting my faces that that you're getting as you're telling these stories.
So aren't we like, isn't it like switching whenever
I
you're
think it
talking, then
switches, but yeah, when you're
oh
talking
right,
and
yeah, you're
I'm just making faces and you're laughing at the faces, I'm like, oh, they're not getting those faces.
I've had a lot of really interesting experiences on my journey.
For sure.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah,
All right.
I know what you mean.
Shall we get into our
Let's do that. Let's do
yeah.
that, because what I'd love to guide everyone into today is a deeper a deeper level of awareness of the love that's already present for you, that's already available to you, that you already are, because that's what just completely neutralizes the inclination to have something to prove in the first place. Because and I want to say that very clearly, because it's not about another task on your to-do list that is self-love, because even that can then get pulled into the something to prove thing, right? It can be, I have to love myself and I'm supposed to love myself, and it becomes another thing that you can either prove yourself at or fail at. or not do enough of, or not be enough of. And so rather than approaching this love from that typical linear, mind-based, achievement-based perspective, what I'm inviting you into is a curiosity about the presence of love that gives you the space for it to start to be revealed to you just how overwhelming and unconditional the love that you already have for yourself is, and that we've just been conditioned into looking away from it, into not noticing it, not being as open to it, not fully receiving it, and not resting in it and living from that. Because the more that you're anchored in that recognition and embodiment of that love, then the whole idea of having something to prove, like it just doesn't even then compute, right? Because you've already taken what was going to be the reward for proving yourself is something you already have. So like, it's not even a road you need to go down. Okay.
Yeah. And I want to add too that, the fact that the person I was talking about is still saying things like, you'll come to your senses and blah, blah, blah. And there's this promise of nirvana and whatever. That would have affected me way, way more 2 years ago, because I wasn't aware of the boundless presence of my own love and the love that is available, right? I would have thought like her certainty and her promises of what we would create together in the love that is going to be shared, because she's so certain, it would have affected me way more. But now that I have that knowing, it is so much more of a, oh, this is a you thing.
Exactly.
This is a you thing, and you can do that. But
exactly. So
yeah.
what you just brought up makes another really important point for everyone listening, is that another sort of side effect of you being firmly anchored in awareness of an embodiment of this love is that you're not manipulatable.
Yeah, exactly. You're not as
At that
susceptible to
point,
being
right?
gaslit. Yeah.
Exactly. Because whatever somebody would promise you, you already have.
Or whatever someone says that you are, you don't have to prove that you're not.
That as well. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And again, if what they're saying that you are is something bad that you would think that you have to prove that you're not, again, that's still built on that to get love, right?
Yeah.
So the love that I'm referring to is something that not only is already available to you, it's what you already are. There's nothing you have to do to get to it. It's not in the future. There's no condition on it. You do not have to earn it. There's no such thing as being deserving or not deserving of it. It is. It is. And so I'm not inviting you to hope that you will reach this at some point in the future. I'm inviting you to be curious enough to explore and reconnect with the fact that not only it is here now, it has been here all along. And you don't, it's not something that I'm causing for you in any way, right? I'm inviting you and pointing the way and maybe holding the door open, but you could have bumped into it all on your own without me here at all. And in fact, I certainly hope that the vast majority of the planet starts bumping into it on their own, because, there's only so much of so many hours in the day for me to help guide people through things like this, right? And I'm all for the shift that's happening on planet Earth to accelerate and bring more people into a greater awareness of that love, because one heart at a time coming back into that is what's going to change everything, because each person anchored in this love and aware of this love just doesn't behave in any of the ways that people have had to behave in order to destroy each other, destroy the planet, and all the things that go with that.
Mhm.
So, on that note, go ahead, everyone, just take a minute to make sure that you're giving yourself this space, giving yourself all of your own attention right now, setting aside just this few minutes to fully give yourself the gift of your own presence. So anything that's happened up until now, anything that's going to happen after this few minutes can all wait to have your attention at some other time. Go ahead and let all of your attention start sinking back into your body. So all of that mental attention that's scattered out to the past and the future and to other people and situations, just let it all start to sink back into your body now. Let your breath pull that attention deeper into your body. Let more of your attention just flood into the center of your breath, and then let your breath carry that attention into the center of your being. And let's look at what it means to have nothing to prove. Since fundamentally having nothing to prove is just a side effect of being so fully aware of the love that you are. So bring into your attention something that you do feel that you need to prove about yourself. Maybe it's from the past, or maybe it's something you're dealing with right now. Either way, invite into your attention something that you feel that you're supposed to be, or that you need to be, or that is a condition for you really feeling completely worthy and completely lovable and completely loved, right? Whatever says that you experiencing your own worth and love is on the other side of that. So just feel into that. Let yourself notice now. So what happens usually is when there's a belief like that, in order to avoid experiencing pain, we sort of launch ourselves into action. That's like, okay, well, let me do this. Let me jump through these hoops so that I get there. When meanwhile, if you're willing to go ahead and sit with and be present with the fullness of that pain, the pain of what it feels like to be separate from love, the pain of what it feels like to believe that there are hoops that you have to jump through first in order to experience love, in order to experience your own worth in its fullness. There's a gift there. So allow that pain to arise. All of the discomfort that comes along with that sense of separation from love, that sense of being separate from your own worth. Let it arise. Stay with your breath. And just be curious, just observe it, just give that pain all of the space that it needs to just move freely, however it needs to move. Just letting yourself be curious to find out what it's like to watch the completion of this pain, to watch it arise, to watch it get intense, to watch it move. And to watch it be liberated. And to let yourself notice what's on the other side of that pain. Nice deep breath. And now bring your curiosity to wondering and exploring the question of whether there's already an infinite, unconditional love right where you are, right in the center of your experience as you're experiencing it right now, right in the center of the pain, right in the center of the doubt, right in the center of the confusion, right in the center of the feeling of unworthiness, right in the center of feeling separate from love. Just be curious, just wonder if right in the midst of any of those experiences, is love also there? And you just haven't noticed it before. What if love is also available to you in every moment, in every breath? And as always, I don't mean the emotion love. I don't mean love that has an opposite. I mean a boundless, all-embracing, all-encompassing energy that has no opposite, that's incredibly powerful, that's nourishing, that both soothes and uplifts, that brings harmony, and that's always beckoning you into a greater recognition of it. Good. So 3 nice, deep, gentle breaths right into the center of your heart. Then go ahead and stretch, rub your hands together, shake out anything that needs some movement. Make sure you have some water. And going forward, just let yourself notice when this is going on, right? So, like Coco said before, it's not about giving yourself a hard time for like being a human being, but just being curious with your own experience so that you're more able to notice this when it's going on and then have this opportunity to give it more space.
Exactly. Love it. And Rebecca is now offering her 9-day immersion program called Live Love Every Day, and it's free. So if you want to be, if you want to step deeper into this work and yeah, really experience it, then that would be the thing.
Yeah.
If you want
And
to, yeah.
so, yeah, all you do is use the code GIFT is going to take the entire, is going to remove the whole price, because this isn't just a, oh, it's XYZ value but it was free all along. No, this is a proven program that people have gone through before. They did it when it was initially offered live. People have purchased it just as the replays in the form it's in now. And so it really is a program at that price. And I've decided that I would like to give it away so that you can experience it for the reasons I mentioned before, because, you know, love is what is going to change things. And it's not just the idea of love or some theoretical esoteric love. It's about integrating that into your life and watching all the different ways that that shows up.
Exactly. So yeah, both of us, both me and Rebecca, are available to, if you are looking to work with us. The links are in the show notes. Rebecca has that 9-day immersion, and then Soul Oasis, which is her lifetime program, which is also awesome. And then I am taking on one-on-one clients. And so if you're interested in that, then the link is in my bio.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
have some one-on-one spaces as well, if that's something somebody's interested in. But yeah,
Oh, yeah.
you have numerous options.
Yeah,
And you know,
exactly.
we can both speak for, you know, I've worked with Coco and I would fully recommend it. And I think vice versa. So
Yeah, exactly. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was super, super powerful. And yes, we will see you guys on the interwebs. Feel free to always reach out, say hi, whatever. And yeah, we'll see you soon.